Hi YouTube. Today I'm making a video about how I do PICC Line infusions of an antibiotic and a heparin lock. First things first, you use hand sanitizer. Wash your hands and use hand sanitizer. You can wash your hands and use gloves, or you can use hand sanitizer and use gloves. I don't use gloves during this because it's not necessary. I'm not going to be touching anything with unsanitized hands, but wearing gloves is unnecessary for this specific procedure. These lines have just been changed today, so I believe this is the one that I'm going to start with. And I'm just going to be opening this line. All right. These first, the first step is to use a saline solution. The saline lines are cleared. I'm going to open the package. These tubes are cleared by slightly uncapping this and then plunging real slow at an upward angle. I'm going to have it up so that any bubbles can go out of there. And when you start to see the fluid, then you're good. I usually sling it off into the trash can so I can place it on not a sterilized surface, but it is I do keep the cap on, tighten the cap back down. And just one by one, these do have air in them, so they have to be cleared this way. So I'm just going to do that again. I'm going to point it up. And there's some air in there. You just push that air out very slowly. So when the fluid comes out, that's usually a sign that the air's out too. And just twist that back on. Next comes a heparin lock. The heparin lock goes in a PICC line to secure the line inside so that no clots form in the line. And I'm going to do the same thing with this particular heparin lock. It's a little hard to get the plunger to start to clear the air out of the syringe. So I like to twist it some, and then you just have to apply a little bit more pressure for this heparin. And when I see a little drop of it, then twist the line back on. Sling it dry. All right, you start by opening the line. This is just a basic clamp here. This clamp, it's like a C, and it clicks when it's closed. And when it's open, then everything can go in. But I'm going to be doing purple. The first step is to take alcohol prep and to clean your chosen, because you want to alternate these lines between doses of the antibiotic or whatever you're having to do inside the line. To clean this for a good 15 seconds, just using a twist and motion with the swab completely over top of, this is called a hub. I just found that out recently, but it's going to be cleaning this for 15 seconds. I like to twist because that antibiotic, which is Ancef, can dry and leave a residue on there. So twisting it like this instead of just swabbing like this right here helps to get all that gunk out of there. But you just want to make sure that you've cleaned that for 15 seconds. Don't allow it to touch anything, or you have to clean it again. So I'm going to be twisting the cap off with one hand, which I usually don't do. I usually hold it between my knees down at the bottom and then twist the cap off. But because it's a little harder to twist off that cap and not touch the tip of that syringe when you're just taking it off with one hand. If the tip of this hub touches anything in between injections, it has to be cleaned again. It really needs to be cleaned before every syringe, but it doesn't have to be cleaned for 15 seconds every time. just that first time. So when I was instructed, I was supposed to remember SASH, SASH, which stands for saline, antibiotic, saline, heparin. Now I don't have to remember that anymore. Kind of second nature. This is the saline. That's the first. It cleans out that line good. Since that hasn't touched anything, now it's still clean. This antibiotic is a huge tube. To apply it, this is rubbery inside. You have to apply gentle pressure and twist at the same time. Now, this particular medication can only go in over the course of 3 to 5 minutes. I used to like to do it in 5 minutes, which was for each 5, which I'm going to go ahead and go from 20 to 15, which is 5 milliliters. And I was doing from 20 to 0, so all 20 milliliters of liquid. And these are already cleared. The company that, the pharmacy that delivers these are refrigerated. This is Ancef, or cefalozolin. So I'm going to wait and close that line and talk about these hubs a little bit. They're rubbery, like I said, inside. That's because there's a seal that can only be, pushed through with the tip of the syringe, which, can you see that? Okay. Well, this right here is the one that I use, so it's, empty and everything. I'm not going to be using it. But this right here is pushed into the rubbery part of the hub as it's twisted, because if you see there's threads in there. There's also threads on the end of the hub. So they just will go in as you're pushing it in, you'll twist clockwise. All right, after about 1 minute and 15 seconds, or at least 1 minute has passed, and you want to start and go ahead and do about another half of a 5. These lines have a mark actually on the locks that say that these tubes that go into this main artery, and that essentially the PICC line goes into the chest, that they can only take 5 milliliters per second. But in order to burst that line or to cause any trouble, I would have to push an entire one of these, which is 10 milliliters, in 2 seconds. So that would be like, boom, like so quick, that would cause problems. That would most likely burst the line. And since this is a PICC line, not an IV, the line travels all the way into the valve, into the artery. Okay, so I'm going to lay that. And I'm going to wait. Most things can just be pushed through, but with this medicine, it needs to be delivered slowly, because if the medicine is delivered too quickly, it can make you very sick. There's something called serum sickness. You can look that up and read more about certain medications. Serum sickness is basically just, the medicine is mixed in with your blood a little bit too quick, and it can literally cause vomiting, diarrhea, nausea. With an antibiotic also, you may have diarrhea and things like that, but the Ancef is done good. I'm allowed to use up to 8 ounces of a probiotic drink for this patient, whom I love. But, yeah, I think probably about 1 minute has passed. I could actually just look at my screen and see the count there. So I'll probably have plenty of time. So these are being 5 milliliters per minute, just about. So it'll be finished in about 4 minutes. And it's supposed to be delivered in 3 to 5. You don't want to deliver that in 2 minutes. You don't want to deliver all 20 milliliters in a minute. You don't want to do that. Even though I could push from 20 all the way out in just 30 seconds, but you don't want to do that. That would make him very sick, and he's experienced that before when at a hospital someone just did the saline and then pushed the antibiotic in and then did the saline and the heparin. He was vomiting because this is a medication that does actually say on the instructions, cefalozone 2 grams per 20 milliliters in sterile water, syringe, infused contents of 1 syringe every blank hours, and his is 8, over 3 to 5 minutes as directed. So you have to just have some time with this one. So I'll do 5 and then I'll lay it down. I kind of prop it up against him like this right here most of the time. I can just lay it there because it's not going to be contaminated. As long as this syringe is on this hub, then that hub is protected from bacteria. Now, if you ever touch the end of a syringe to your skin, then you want to clean the end of that syringe too with some alcohol. I have before accidentally uncapped the syringe and then touched it to my hand, and I always just wipe that off. 70% isopropyl alcohol pretty much kills everything. Even though the hub hasn't touched anything, it's time to clean that again. I always clean after the antibiotic because, like I said, this antibiotic, when it dries, it leaves this residue, and I just always make a habit of cleaning it after the antibiotic. So that's sticking out in the air, so it's not touching anything, and it needs to dry anyway. So saline was first, and then the antibiotic. And now comes the saline to push the antibiotic in. There's a little tip there. Okay. While pressing in that rubbery material and turning clockwise, then it's secure. Not going to fall off or anything. I'm sure there are tons of these videos, but I actually watched the PICC Line dressing video yesterday that was very informative, and well, I already knew how to change the dressing, but at this point, someone that's certified is doing that. Just because they're still available. Now, if no one were available, if there was snow on the ground, yes, I would definitely know how to change that PICC Line, but it only needs to be changed once a week, this dressing. The PICC Line is stitched into the arm because you don't want that sliding out. And plus, that's a secure. All right, I'm going to hold this so that nothing can touch it while I throw away that. I'm going to unlock this. Uncap this, rather. And this is a heparin lock. And what the heparin lock is a blood thinner that keeps that line that goes all the way into the chest. It's all the way up the arm. It's actually a surgical procedure too. It's a light surgical procedure, but what this does is it's a flush solution, but being that it's a blood thinner, it keeps blood that may back up into the line from the inside up here where it ends from clogging the line. Because this is the last thing that goes in, and you don't want to do saline on top of this because it would flush that heparin into the body, and we want that. We have just enough here. This is a short little syringe. We have just enough there to fill up that line. After it's done, we just want to close this. Go click. Well, we're going to throw away all of our syringes and caps and all that good stuff. And then this is how I remember. The next one I'm going to be using, I go ahead and stick through this arm. These armbands are awesome. You can cut them to size. We were just forced to deal with some 14-inch lines. And they were crazy. They were so long. that I taped them to the arm and then ran them back up so I could have my system here. So after I use this one for the final dose, which will be after midnight, then I'll, put this one back through there. That way tomorrow morning I'll know that I go to this one. You want to alternate these between doses, like I said before. Want to make sure that the lines are closed. Don't want to take the chance of any bacteria getting up inside that line just because. This can also be stuck under there just to protect it. But I just allow that to stick out so that I can see which one I'll be using next. And always make sure that you clean the hub for 15 seconds with the alcohol pad. Keep the alcohol pad on there and twist it. Clean it for 15 seconds and then allow it to dry. And it's completely sterilized. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.